Welcome to Your Pharmacy Career Podcast, proudly produced by Ravens Recruitment, the experts in pharmacy career and locum services for over 30 years. Every episode is your gateway to new opportunities in the pharmacy profession. From expert advice to inspiring success stories, we're here to spark ideas, guide your career, and help you achieve your goals. Stay tuned. The next step in your pharmacy journey starts here.
I'm your host, Christy Lee Patterson. Today, I am with Nick Pincombe. Nick is a community pharmacist and is a passionate advocate for veteran and first responder health. Nick's military career has spanned 12 years of service, including regimental postings, recruit and soldier training, disaster relief in Brisbane and Townsville, operations officer and liaison officer roles, and operational experience in Afghanistan. And for some of you that are listening that are not sure what any of that means, I'm sure we'll get into the detail. So Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Nick, normally I ask people why did they choose pharmacy, but if you could tell us a little bit about your military career first, because that's actually something that you did before starting pharmacy.
I signed up for the military basically straight out of school. I was hell-bent on becoming a pilot, so I joined the Air Force. I ended up signing up under a fighter controller role, and I went to the Australian Defence Force Academy. I spent 2 years at the Australian Defence Force Academy and decided that at that point in time, tertiary study wasn't for me. Perhaps it was horrendously uncontrolled ADHD that didn't help. I started to see what other jobs or occupations were available within defence. I ended up transitioning to go directly to the Royal Military College at Duntrain. Went off into infantry corps. I got qualified with all the trade qualifications, and I ended up in an infantry battalion in Townsville where I spent a couple of years doing my infantry platoon commander time, specialist role as the assault pioneer platoon commander. And then from there, I basically bounced between instructional roles at Kapuka, which was actually a lot more fun than people initially gave it credit for. So it was actually quite a rewarding job. We worked very hard. I didn't really see my apartment in daylight that entire year because of how often we were working, but I met some fantastic people there. During that time, I assisted with the flood assist down in Brisbane, Cyclone Yazi work, getting people prepared to go overseas, to go to Timor, more training roles under the operations officer banner. So basically just like trying to do everything my boss needs done. I then posted down to Sydney, and that's where I actually met my wife. I did an adjutant job down there at a training center. I was scheduled to do a particularly arduous course down there. At that point in time, I probably had no place doing that job anyway because of some injuries that I didn't really accept, because that's pretty much what you do in the military is you hide your injuries so you can't lose your job. I didn't know it at the time, but I'd actually been walking around for a couple of years with several fractured vertebrae in my back.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that's crazy.
From that, this is back in 2007, I think that happened, and I wouldn't say poorly managed, so I didn't really help myself either, because we sort of just crack on and say we're right to do the job and we want to go and do the job. Otherwise, we're basically training for the game and never getting to play, so to speak. And then at the end of midway through 2013, I deployed to Afghanistan. I got to see a couple of places. I got to see how fortunate we are to live in Australia. And then came back to Australia and then basically got off the plane, dropped army like a hot rock. My wife or my to-be wife would kick me out of bed at 3 p.m. for that first week I was back to start functioning like a normal human. We got engaged, we bought a house out in Sydney, and we flew to New York basically all in the same week and got married in Central Park, and then came back. And whilst we're in New York, I was starting my pharmacy degree on the top floor of one of the buildings on Fifth Avenue, because that's when they had internet cafes inside. There wasn't.
Wow.
Even before I got back from overseas, in the September, October before that, I was in Kandahar putting in applications to universities to start studying pharmacy the following year. Yeah, and basically just started the study journey.
Wow. Well, I'm sure to ask the question of, describe your military career over 10 years, and to put it into just a couple of minutes surely doesn't really give it any justice. And you mentioned that you were started in the infantry, and I understand what that is. So my husband's actually ex-RAF, and my grandfather is actually a Vietnam veteran. He was in the infantry in Vietnam. So I understand what that means. So that's basically, I guess if I can say in layman's terms, you're the ones up the front, like the front line. Is that correct? Like infantry, you're there, you're in it?
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to describe it. It's everyone you see in older style war films providing gunfire and doing being the boots on the ground to achieve the strategic effect also.
Yeah, I'm sure. I really don't think people understand the toll it can take on people. Like, because at the end of the day, you're humans, right? And you've got to be trained in a way to do your job. But that would be really, really difficult to switch that off. And I know my grandfather's experiences, he didn't start talking about it until probably only like 3 or 4 years ago. And then, see, I didn't know my husband when he was in the military. I knew him post-military. But I think it can be quite isolating when you do leave the military culture. So when you decide to, I guess, leave, I don't know if you were medically discharged. I'm not quite sure.
It's funny you mentioned that. I transitioned out on my own terms.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, like only a couple of weeks ago, I've had what is effectively a retrospective medical discharge accepted, just because of service-related conditions. Regarding transition, the way that I describe to people, whether it's veterans or the general person, the way military training, to put it in the most lay way to describe it, is all of us humans are all square pegs. We're all different size square pegs, and we've all got different notches and cuts on us representing the experiences we've had throughout life. And then the military takes us and they shave your head and they dress you all the same and they whack you all into the same round hole. So you're all now round pegs. And then when it comes time to transition out, you merge back into being your square peg and you have more cuts and notches on you, and you don't really remember or are capable of functioning as a fully functioning square peg again, so to speak.
Mm.
And it's that transition time. Some people do, like some people have no issues. I had quite significant issues when I transitioned. It is like it can feel like you're running on a highway and the highway is moving in all different directions and you can't maintain your feet. The things that veterans or the things that military personnel will carry when they do get out, because of the way we operate when we're in service, we are always okay. We don't need to ask for help. We are always productive members of teams and it's always our focus. There is never not that, like, when it comes to team cohesion, it's required. However, there is still a need for hang on, I need this to function at 100%, and nobody ever really takes that on board. And so when you get out, you carry that with you and you're still fine and you're still the toughest person you've ever met, and you can push through your injuries and pain and conditions and your hypervigilance issues, etc. But the reality is that it quite significantly affects obviously yourself, but also your family and those close to you. So for me, that, like, when I went back to uni, I did my degree over 6 years because a lot of my service-related stuff came out. A lot of pain issues, like a lot of poor pain management. I literally cut away a lot of people that I used to talk to. And I no longer had that network to talk to people. And whether it's through pride, stubbornness, stupidity, take your pick.
Are they people that were in the military with you that you're referring to, that you lost connection with? Yeah, I think that is quite common, I think. Well, I know from my husband's perspective, he has no contact really with anyone that he served with, which is quite sad.
Yeah. It's a loss of community. And there's an excellent book by, what's his last name, Younger. It's called Tribe, and it discusses this.
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Jung is his name, sorry. He wrote about he was coupled with an organisation in Afghanistan and describes the teamwork and the environment because he lived it with them. And it's no change. It's whether you're police, fire, ambo, or an ex-military individual, you have that loss of tribe. And when you talk about discussing identity, you lose that identity. And to lead into assisting yourself or having others assist you. I do remember a psychiatrist when we were talking at the Psych conference in 2023 discussed how it's impossible to commence an individual on their journey to healing if they have no ego, so no identity.
Interesting.
So you see veterans step out of their role and quickly, also veterans step out of their identity and quickly slip off the face of the earth because their treatment is probably commencing in a way that it shouldn't be commencing, or there is no internal framework, so to speak, for them to be able to establish and be comfortable with a new identity to say, this is who I am now, this is the set goals I have in life. I mean, it took me a long time to do that. So it's a different perspective, but it's definitely one that I've seen in not just myself, but others.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that your study of the pharmacy degree took you 6 years, and something that I'm always kind of saying to to younger people that, or even a lot of people that are wanting to study, but that they'll give themselves, I guess, reasons why they can't do it, and I'll have to do it part-time and it's going to take me a lot longer. But I'm like, well, the time's going to pass anyway. Who cares if it takes you a bit longer?
Yeah.
Are you also, if I remember correctly, in the beginning when you started chatting, when you were at the Defence Force Academy, that you struggled with tertiary studies because of your ADHD. So I'm just curious as to why you decided to, go down that path again when it wasn't something that you found was suited for you back then. But then, post military life, you decided to, I guess, go back and give it a try.
Look, maturity, I think, is a big part of that. The first time I'd ever been on a plane was when I flew to Canberra to go to ADFA. Like, that's how inexperienced I was at life. The precursor work that I did before I commenced my degree, commencing my pharmacy degree, was a lot of teaching myself how to actually study effectively. And I'm fortunate that I learned a lot from my wife, because she's obviously done quite a lot of study and she assisted me a great deal. Well, she has throughout her entire journey. Yeah, it took a lot of groundwork. It was very frustrating, but we got through. I find it hilarious that I even got published when I left uni. So if anyone out there is having trouble falling asleep, you can find my paperwork on vitamin D and atherosclerosis nutrition journal.
Yeah, wow. I'll definitely be looking that up. We'll post a link to it in the show notes if anyone's interested.
It's a sleeping pill and a half.
Or natural way to fall asleep. You won't need any diazepams or anything like that. So I guess when you decided that you're going to study pharmacy, do you think that the fact that your wife is a doctor and she was intern early on when you were together, is that something that kind of pushed you into maybe healthcare is something that you want to go into? Or do you think it's more the experiences that you had through your military career and then post-military that you thought this could be an opportunity for you to make a difference, or it was just something completely different?
The intent was, my wife and I had a no shit 11 p.m. discussion one night, and it was that she didn't want me continuing with this career because of the pathway that I'd selected, and our relationship basically wouldn't survive. So I made the call and said, well, this is what's actually of value to me more than staying in that job. And we had a discussion about the pathway forward, and we talked about medicine, engineering, and pharmacy. And I've always had an interest in pharmacy, and I very, very much like the pharmacology side of everything. It's something that I find quite interesting, and I'm able to visualize it quite well compared to the other aspects. I didn't learn how to counsel correctly until I went into internship. But and that was the decision we made. And the end state intent was for us to work together in a capacity, which we basically do now. We work in the same village, and we discuss, we just patient care pathways all the time, treatment. We have very, very good discussions, interesting discussions about management.
Yeah, no, I think that's really insightful. I always believe that people's experiences and things that they've done throughout their life definitely shapes who they are and the choices that they take. So I guess for you, studying as what's called a mature age student, and you've had a lot of life experience behind you that just the everyday person will never get to experience. Did you study by distance, or did you?
Yes, yeah. I studied through UNA. I used to joke that course was designed as a degree made out of an obstacle course, but it was enjoyable. It had its frustrations. Studying by correspondence is always challenging. There were a few instructors at that school who I still look up to nowadays. Anna Barwick is one. She's a lady who has a bottomless tank of empathy for people, and she was very good at shaping a lot of us to become the practitioners that we are nowadays. And I was fortunate enough to work under Gudrun Dieberg for the research project, and she just taught me so much about the entire research world. It was phenomenal. But they have, well, at least when I was there, they had some phenomenal people there. And it's always challenging to try and run a course by correspondence. It'd be a nightmare.
Absolutely, yeah. To be able to run that effectively, ensure that everyone feels supported, I think would be the hardest. My first degree that I did but didn't finish was actually through UNE. So I studied biomedical science by distance. And it's really good having that flexibility, but it can also be a bit isolating as well. And so I was very grateful of the residential schools. So I'm assuming you would have had to do the same for pharmacy, go up there for a week or something. Yeah.
We were taking
and then be up
at some stage. because my eldest was born in like 2016. So I had a residential school, I think 4 weeks after Magnus was born. And that was an interesting couple of weeks.
Wow. Yeah. So it would have been hectic. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is the thing, like you're not just studying and like, but you've got a family, you've got a life and just the everyday demands as well. It's funny, I sometimes think back to when I was studying straight out of school and how stressful it was. And don't get me wrong for those that are listening, but in that it is stressful, but I definitely I didn't appreciate that I did have a lot of support system with my parents, and also like I didn't have to really work that much. I did work at the same time, but it was like very different now. I didn't have the responsibilities that you have when you're older. So sometimes I look back and think, oh gosh, I wish I could go back to those stressful days.
Yeah, I hear you there.
But anyway, I guess these are things those listeners you have to look forward to, but we wouldn't change it. Absolutely not. And so you've got a family. You've got, how many kids do you have now?
I have two.
Two. Yeah.
I have a battering ram and a juggernaut. So it's there's going to be a lot of repainting in the near future, I think.
Yeah, I could imagine. And so you mentioned that one of them was, born while you were studying. How was that? I guess that would have been quite challenging.
It was after Magnus was born, like I was already starting to struggle with a lot of stuff from transition, like a few key issues, particularly sleep, some mood stuff, lots of chronic pain issues. And then we were studying. Obviously, we want to ensure that we're doing the best. So I was particularly hard on myself. At that time, I was dealing with putting in claims to DVA, which is quite a stressful part, like quite a stressful journey. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I put together the service that I did, because of this part of this journey, I reflect back on it and think, what are the things that I wish that I'd known at the time that I know now? And it's so much easier to bundle it and broadcast it to people. And I always, I describe it as assisting others find their own yellow brick road, because in the end, it's our self-ownership of our own pathway that gets us to where we're going to go. And people aren't going to do things for you. So it's vital to have that self-ownership. But during that time, there was some challenging. It was quite an enduring period. I suspect that, I mean, I've never had it confirmed, but mainly because the diagnostic thresholds for it are very challenging to try and diagnose. But I suspect there was some TBI, like some traumatic brain injury stuff because of blast exposure, even just gunfire, running, just exposure to overpressure concussion. Because during that time, like if you ask me to remember specific things between, say, 2015 and 2020 or a bit after, like I probably couldn't. Like my wife would show me videos of my son's first steps or key events, and I honestly, I'd break down because I couldn't actually remember. And I mean, through some therapies nowadays, I mean, it's miraculous, but most of that stuff's actually come back.
Like, that's good. I guess in some things, like, I guess sometimes you might think, oh, it probably does bring up some things that you don't want to remember either, like maybe things that you're trying to suppress. But yeah, like that's actually good that you are actually able to remember the good things as well now, which is great.
Yeah. And even with the suppression of events, that's not a solution. There's other pathways there as well to assist. There's other pathways that are available to basically to assist with those as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I also, like when I have conversations with people about all of these things, like the number of emergency servicemen and veterans that I've had discussions with in our clinic room or even outside of it, like a lot of these happen in the clinic room and they happen close to close time, because I usually close like Mondays and Fridays because I live so close to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had like several occasions where I've had either emergency servicemen or I've had veterans, and I've sent the other staff member home I've closed with, because I have like big burly men bursting in tears just talking through all of these issues that are now coming out because the life stresses have basically caused the dam to overflow. And it's always a case of like discussing that regardless of whether the individual invited the trauma or not, so to speak, regardless of what's happened to them, even though it's not their fault and they've been given it, it's still their responsibility to manage and to work through. Otherwise, your pathway to end of life becomes a very horrible pathway. When the things that we value family, we value, all of the things that make us happy, you don't get to see those fulfilled when you carry all of this. So self-acceptance, and then understanding it's not a case of a single therapy or a group of therapies can help me with this. It's a case of here's the swathe of options available to get you on your pathway. Where do you want to start? And that's the conversations I usually end up having.
Pharmacy Daily is a proud supporter of your pharmacy career podcast. If you're in the pharmacy world, it's a great resource to stay up to date with the latest industry news. To subscribe, just head to pharmacydaily.com.au to get the newsletter delivered straight to your inbox.
Do you think as a pharmacist, and as you've been speaking, I've been reflecting on experience in the pharmacy and people coming in and almost the idea of what I think a veteran is. And I think the general population, and even like I've got experience with very close family members being veterans, and they're not just the Vietnam vets or the older gentlemen that are like in there anywhere from like 60s up to 90s. Like veterans like yourself served in Afghanistan, Iraq, and a lot of the new wars now. And I think because they don't look like what you expect a veteran will look like, that they probably are our customers and we probably don't realise. And one thing that I reflected on, and I didn't actually really think of it much, but my husband, he has a DVA white card. And so for those listening, white card is the one where you get the mental health treatment subsidised. The gold one is where they get basically everything. And for him, he actually didn't use it for so many years because he didn't like want to feel that like I don't know, maybe it was broken or something, or he didn't need it or something like that, and so I don't know if in your experience you've seen, and I've also seen from his experience, he's now in the AFP, so you've gone military to AFE, so AFE has its own issues as well. He's in counter-terrorism, so I don't know if that's any better where he was. I think there's also a bit of a perception among, I guess, what we call civilians, so regular people that are not in military or service men or women, that they do get a lot of support. And you can challenge me on this as well. But there's still a lot of fear even today for people to access the services because they're scared of the effect that's going to have on their work. And so, like, I know I've even had these discussions with my husband and said, why don't you see the AFP psychologists, psychiatrists, physiotherapists, like they have all these. But he's like, no, I'll never go to them, like it's not confidential. I'm like, and because I'm a health professional, I'm like, but it is confidential. But I don't know if you see that or if that's been something that you've experienced or seen people. Is that still
it's a case happening? Of I think like for me with my career, like I don't consider my career to be anything special. There are individuals there are individuals who I know and I look up to so highly. I mean, I'm not going to name them, but there are individuals even within my cohort who I have such high respect for as humans and as military servicemen. And you kind of look at your own career and go, like mine is quite a short road in comparison. Did I do enough? You have internal guilt that you could have done more, could have done better. You have hindsight following you around, kicking you in the butt all the time, and you let it because it's just a rumination issue. But on the flip side, I think a lot of people, I think there's two parts to it. There's a case that they may feel the same. I know a lot of veterans when they have odd dreams or nightmares, a lot of the dreams are based around letting people down. And I've had those as well. So it's a case of like there's that side of it, the guilt of not being the best team maybe you could have been, and also the other side of it being, I don't want to accept this because it means I'm broken or I have something wrong with me or I can't have jobs or when in the reality of it, it's a case of why would you be so stubborn when you could have better quality of life? And it's not just you who benefits; it's everybody you care about, and also whatever profession you're in is going to benefit from you being a better, more capable individual. And ensuring that you self-manage yourself is the pathway forward with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's plenty of stigma that though, still even with mental health, with men in mental health, with asking for help, with capability. Pressures, 1950 style pressures where you are to be the sole provider. I can't even come close to making what my wife makes, me working as a pharmacist. It doesn't make me a pathetic person.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. But yeah, there's still that. I know the conversations, my husband and I have had too. And yeah, it's funny you mentioned about like the people having the dreams and it's like based around letting people down. And so that was very insightful with what you just said.
Oh, thank you.
And so as a pharmacist, you have launched a number of services in your pharmacy to support veterans. I'd love to, understand a little bit more about what that actually is and how does one go about participating in these services that you've created.
The primary one I do is, and it's finally got its own booking linked up through the pharmacist, which is down in Wagga, which is a veterans conducts research and is actually pushing for a lot of veteran-led activities in that space. So service literally started as me handwriting notes on the greatest notepad on the planet, which is tear offs from a script.
I love it. Love it. This is just like pharmacy life.
Yeah, but the thing is, in like 5-minute conversations, actually that's incorrect because our manager Penny will say that were longer than 5 minutes. She actually told me to. She said that she hopes your podcast is very long because I have a habit of tangent talking and talking for a long time.
That's okay. I like tangents. It actually makes the podcast very interesting. Like I said, I've got questions, but for those that are listening, we don't actually go with Q&As, and so tangents are usually where we find the best engagement.
Hopefully complete my PhD in that soon. We literally started as conversations as quick snapshots into people's lives, asking particular questions, which again, Penny said I'm very good at asking the right/wrong questions. Hence why I have clinic room conversations with closed doors, which is not a bad thing. I value people opening up to me like that and the fact that they can trust me to talk about what is going on. And it's a case of I would provide people with this is a list of discussion points I suggest you go and take to your doctor and have a talk about. It's like I'm not going to tell you to cease your therapy. Even with this medication review thing that I do now, I don't tell people to cease therapy. I provide them with discussion points to say, these are the things that are important to you. These are the options available. These are the referral pathways that you'll require to discuss with your doctor in order to access those pathways. And this is the way to broadcast it to your practitioner. The reasoning behind this is because when you're out of the uniform, you still do as you're told. You still look as a health practitioner as an authority figure. So if your doctor's to start this drug, even though it's going to probably throw you out with significant side effects or it might not be in your best interest, and I'm not saying practitioners don't have their patients in their best interest, it's just there are specific pathways that are provided for certain conditions. It's a case of giving people the knowledge, and I look at it as the permission to question what's going on and ensure that it is the best thing for them and for their lives. And for me, like when I presented at the Psych conference in 2023, like there was myself, an Air Force veteran and an ex-commando veteran who actually works at Propatria, Jace. We all spoke from different perspectives. We were all asked to provide a 20-minute package each to talk. So we obviously went through our journeys as we've done today. Talked about our injuries. I mean, I can give you a laundry list of injuries that myself and everyone else usually carries. And then we each put a slide up that had like the medications we'd trialed for our health conditions. And like for me, I think there was like 35 or 40 on mine, and Jace had a ton on his, and Michael had a ton on his. It's a case of this is just like a lot of us have just things thrown at us. Try this, try this, try this. When in reality, it is a case of it's not just it's not just a pharmaceutical solution. It is hey, let's get your let's get your sleep under control, because we can look at our sleep as we can make a triangle of sleep, depression, sleep and pain. If we can reduce one of those, we can reduce the size of the triangle, so to speak. And sleep, I mean, I say sleep is the easiest to target. It's still incredibly challenging. It's probably still the easiest of the three to target. But like, it's not just drugs that are going to get you sleep. What else is going on? What other modalities do we have available that we can get people to reduce their pain, increase their mobility, increase their feeling of their that they're capable? And that's like, sorry, just to come back from the edge of that tangent, that's basically like the intent behind that was to get people to understand, or just have a discussion and say it's not the best option to do this when you can also do these other things to add it in. Like I spoke about Spravato. I'm happy to talk about it. Like I've used esketamine for a couple of years. It has been, for me personally, it's been somewhat of a silver bullet. Memory issues that I have dissipated. I have a lot of reduced pain. I can actually sleep. I can sleep without sleeping on the floor because of my pain. Like a lot of the time I would sleep on the floor. And also because my kids would just wake me up. So it's just easier to sleep on the floor in their room. And from that Psych conference, the stovepiping within a lot of therapeutic or a lot of practitioner structures has been, and particularly with the psychiatrists that we spoke to, is this is the stuff that worked for us. Like we had, out of the three of us, like we'd all tried cannabis, and cannabis is an effective tool. But cannabis is also a part of the reason why I put the medications review together, because you can't, like, to go and smoke 10 grams of flower a week and think that's acceptable, and your family doesn't even know who you are anymore, then we need to have a bit of a chat about it, I think. So, and obviously with our vacuum with the cannabis industry and certain unscrupulous individuals taking advantage of that, then it's something that needs to be managed just to assist people to assist themselves. But once we presented, we ended up talking, I think, for 4 hours in total, because we were supposed to just have a 20-minute slot each, and we had a massive back and forth, like just constructive conversation, just about what modalities work, what don't work. I've used EMDR therapy, and I think it's fantastic. It's actually probably one of the most exhausting things I've ever experienced.
Yeah, wow, okay.
Like I've attended EMDR therapy and like had to pull over on the drive home because of how challenging it can be. But it is ridiculously effective when it's placed in the right place. Yeah, so like my personal experiences with this, my conversations with other veterans, my conversations with practitioners is how we've gone in the pathway of setting up the medication for research. And that's why I had to title it something. I ended up chatting with, this all sort of happened post masterclass last year with the nomination stuff, which gave me a bit of a confidence boot to actually do the things that I value.
Yeah, brilliant. For those that are listening, this is the Terry White Kmart masterclass. Is that correct? Yep.
Yes, yeah. So that's where I was. With the nomination, I didn't even know why I still don't. I'm assuming it's because I've come in on my days off and built so many shelves and changed so many lights in the shop. But so after that, I discussed this. I discussed it with several individuals, bounced a lot of ideas off, like Terry White's chief pharmacist, Brenton. Like he gave me a lot of good insight into the ways to look at it. I had several back and forth conversations with PDL about how to structure it, because I'm not HMR qualified, but what I do doesn't.
Oh, okay, that I should have actually asked that question. I just assumed that you would have to be. Yes, right.
It's HMR related, and it's a case of yes, these are your conditions. This is what your experience has been. These are the medications you take. I'm not trying to recommend to change anything. I'm trying to get people to get to portray to their practitioner that what is happening now is not working as good as it could.
So it's essentially empowering the patient, right, to take more control of their own therapies.
Yeah, I don't like the word empower. I think it's overused, but I think to just give people the confidence to start to forge their own path.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want me to go through the overview of the medication?
Yeah, that would be great. I think, because for those that are listening, I guess that may be interested in either doing something like this, or even maybe they've got a different topic that is relevant to maybe their experiences or the demographics of their pharmacy. And like the fact that you mentioned it started out from just writing on bits of paper on the script. And I think sometimes in pharmacy, a lot of us think, it's too hard to create a service because they might see someone winning an award, or they see these really well-established things. For example, even like the Men's Health Down Under that Brad Butt started, we're seeing it 15 years down the track. We're not seeing what it was like in the very beginnings. But if you could, quickly describe what's actually involved, that'd be great.
Exactly on the point you've just made. When I started putting this together, and when I was I basically went with the thought that, provided that it's not maliciously aligned, and this is what I actually really, really value about pharmacies. If framework doesn't exist for something, you can go and create your own framework, basically, until someone either slaps you on the wrist and tells you to change it, or until it changes hands because it's become too big. So that's exactly what I ended up doing, where PDL, when you go through and ask why referrals are required for things like HMRs, and it's only funding related. So I just don't charge a fee for it. I just do this off my own back. The way that it works is I have a website for it now, but beforehand it was just word of mouth. People would take a business card and they would call me, and we would book in for some time to chat. And we go through an entire picture of the individual's life. So we talk about their service history, their service-related conditions that they've endured, any conditions, because plenty of people enter with conditions pre and develop things after. So we go through everything and just lay it out and say, this is what is happening in this individual's life. We discuss whether they've had any genetic testing for enzyme upregulation, downregulation for drug metabolism.
Interesting.
So the one that I see veterans most easily get access to and have DVA fund is the Sonic one. So they have that's just something to add on. We go through what their home life, work life, everything looks like. We then go through and talk about specific conditions, the conditions that are most concerning to them when we go through the medication management, previous medication history, how everything has been going. So, and what their wants are out of this. What are their, what is their future wants? Where do they want to end up? Do they want to increase their physical capability? Do they want to change their weight? Do they want to be run? Like a lot of people I talk to, it's like, I want to still be able to run around and carry my kids. And they describe it as being broken. What I've been doing is I literally just take all of this and I put it into the key discussion points. I don't send this to their practitioner. I only send it to the veteran, and it's written in the way that we've talked.
Yep.
Because if I was a GP or a practitioner and someone's sending me medication review reports out of nowhere, I'd probably be a little bit grumpy that someone's trying to tell me how to do my job.
Yes.
So it's literally so that they can take it with them and they can sit down and say, hey, I've sat down with Nick. Nick's a veteran. Nick has a bit of pharmacy experience and health condition experience. These are some points that he suggested we talk about today, and it's like, yes, I should be going physio, or he suggested discussing EMDR therapy. His EMDR practitioners, I mean, I have people used to laugh at me, they probably still do it. Like in my notebook, I have like a ton of practitioners' names, because every single time someone comes back and says, I received this therapy from this person, or I went and saw this neurosurgeon. I mean, half of these people I saw myself. When you need to go and get second opinions on getting discs replaced in your neck, you need to, you start keeping track of who's worthwhile going and seeing, and then you start directing other people towards those. So that just forms the basic. I'm happy to plus or minus it. If people have more to add to it, feel free to, because there's never enough support. But to get people to understand that, it's like, okay, I want to see a physio for this, and I'm sick and tired of my depression and my mood, etc. And I want to discuss esketamine, or where is the MDMA pathway at? Like, what's happening with psilocybin?
Yep.
What's going on with cannabis? Who should I actually be talking to about pain management with cannabis or sleep? And then there's even intricacies with that too, because there are some effective psychoactive components within the cannabis plant that DVA won't subsidise, because it's not THC or CBD. So these are sort of the next conversations to have. And this way,
it's those things that find me so frustrating, that it's always linked to funding pathways or things like that, and where there could be really great therapies out there, but it's just, yeah. But anyway, I won't go down that tangent. I'll let you go. Carry on.
And that's basically it. We have a follow-up at the veteran's discretion.
Mm-hmm.
Half the time when I do these, I don't write a report. We just have a chat, and some people just go, oh, okay, that's all I've got to do. Yeah, no worries at all. And sometimes people just don't want to do anything, because sometimes that's just how people are, and that's okay as well. But
yeah, that's so true. And sometimes it can take a lot of time for them, right, to hear something. But I think sometimes even if people don't want to do something, but deep down, like the fact that someone actually gave a shit, I guess, and gave them some time, I think that that does stay with them.
Yeah, it's like, and I always run with the adage that, it's probably getting old using this now, but all of us, we don't want to hand getting up. But my intent with this is always to help people. I say it's to help people to get from the ground to a knee, so they can stand up on themselves under their own power, and we will support them on that journey. And if it's not me supporting them, I will find them somebody to support them. Because there are enough pathways available to help people improve their quality of life. So it is, it can be incredibly frustrating. I have several stories about that. It's a case of these are I look at it as, these are the things that I wish I had when I started to get unwell and I started to endure a lot of issues. So and from this, I'm honestly it's not the same with everybody else, and a lot of veterans don't have the support network that I have. My wife is the most phenomenal human, and she has done nothing but support me this entire journey and kick my butt when I needed to be kicked. And she's, we've had quite the story together so far. And I'm also very fortunate. Not a whole heap stresses me in life anymore, because I get to, my sons and my wife are my best friends, and I get to be part of the best team I've ever been a part of. And these are the things that I truly value. So it's not how many scripts I did today at work, or whatever other superficial issue or component people use to assess how good they're doing. It's a case of have I supported those who are going to be standing by my deathbed as best as I can? And are my two sons better equipped to leave home than I was when I left home, so to speak?
Nick, I'll just give you the opportunity now. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners that maybe we haven't touched on yet that you want to kind of leave as a final message?
I did want to say, just regarding the medication service, there is a resilience tracking app that we are now signing people up to. My long-term intent for this service is to be able to have DVA funded so other pharmacists can conduct it, because people don't work for free.
Yes.
And obviously the best way to facilitate something is to provide robust evidence. The tracking app displays, it'll identify what services or what therapeutic pathways a veteran is using, and it's able to delineate which are the most useful. So it will provide us with data to show just how effective this is, and then from there I can write up a proof of concept paper, and we'll see. I mean, this is long term. It's going to take me a little while to collect this data, but long term I intend on writing that proof of concept paper so that we do have a service established, because I think it's something, if you can capture vulnerable veterans during their hardest times, if we can capture people before then, we can ensure that people are on the right pathway forward to live full, happy lives that they deserve. So,
absolutely. Well, we'll add the link to this tracking app as well in the show notes, so that those that are interested, they can download it, check it out, reach out. But I definitely think you're onto something, and it's going to take some time to get this evidence base up, but I think it's definitely worthwhile work you're doing. So, Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. It's been really, really insightful, and got lots of reflections and learnings about this. And I guess even just my take-home message is, even you don't have to think about creating a huge service or something, like just taking an extra 5 minutes and just having that chat to your patients and your customers. You don't know where that can lead to. So that's probably my take-home message from our chat today. So thanks, Nick.
Thank you for this. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to Your Pharmacy Career Podcast, proudly sponsored by the Pharmaceutical Society of Australia. The PSA is committed to empowering pharmacists through advocacy, innovation, and industry-leading professional development. To become a member or learn more about how the PSA can support your career, visit www.psa.org.au. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast with your colleagues, and join us next time as we continue to explore your pharmacy career journey.